All right. Welcome, Needham families. Thanks for being here tonight. We're going to talk about ILEARN 2024 and IREAD. So you're in the right place for that. I'm going to start with the big picture. ILEARN, this is 3rd and 4th grade. We're going to do checkpoints. So these are smaller tests. And if you've been here at Needham very long, we used to do NWEA K through 8. And then we phased that out where we were only doing NWEA K to 5 and 6. Now we're only doing NWEA K through 2. And I would expect that that fades away in the next couple of years. And we're now doing ILEARN checkpoints. This is more of a state focus. NWEA was a national test. This one is more along the standards for Indiana. English language arts and math. Our first checkpoint is next week for 3rd and 4th graders. They'll take 2 tests. One's English language arts, one's math. They're about 20 to 25 questions each. And they'll take, the state is guessing 45 minutes to an hour on each test. They'll read some passages and answer questions on the ELA test. And then they'll answer math questions of all types of the standards that are supposed to be covered in that first 9 weeks of school. And then they'll do another chunk and then another chunk. And then the summative test that's after spring break at the end of the year. This is one we've done. It used to be called I-STEP. That's probably what you remember as a kid, taking the I-STEP test with a pencil, number 2 pencil, and filling in bubbles. Now it is online, and it's more than just filling in bubbles. There's a lot of written response, and I'll talk about that. I think my next slide talks a little bit about that too. Yeah, I kind of filled in that slide already. The summative has 4 parts to it. It has a math component that is computer adaptive. That means the questions change, get more complex as a student gets more questions right, or easier as they get them wrong. And then the performance task is, it's kind of like that 3-step math problem. You find out how many books fit on the shelf, then you find out how many shelves there are, and then you fill a library with books and how many books did it take. So it is multi-step, really thinking deep into a math problem. Kind of a deep story problem. English language arts, computer adaptive, same thing. The questions get harder or easier as they answer A, B, C, or D. And then they have performance task, which is the written response. You've read the story, or maybe even 2 stories, and now you compare the text. Perhaps, how are the main characters different in the story, or how did they solve their problems in a similar fashion? Definitely more complex, definitely a harder skill for kids. And in 4th grade, they also do the science test. Any questions so far? All right.
No, all good.
Okay. You can always do a hand raise on that Google Meet app, or just unmute your mic and shout out if something I'm saying doesn't make complete sense. All right. Each test, as I kind of talked about the timing of that, here are a couple of links. Good information that is, if you're going to read anything about this test, these are 2 of the documents to read. I'm not going to click on those just for time's sake here, but again, I'll share the links with you. Scheduling and 5 things to know. Good ideas like get a good night's sleep before the test. Eat breakfast, eat a healthy breakfast, making sure your kid's in the right frame of mind. For the ILEARN test of these checkpoints, they are a pilot this year. 70% of the state is engaging in this pilot just to kind of get a feel for what this test looks like. But I've encouraged our staff and our students, take it with a relaxed mentality, if possible. This is not a make or break test. We're going to get reports and scores on how kids did, But this is not the kind of test that is high stakes and it's going to determine if you pass or fail or anything like that. It's a pilot for the entire state, trying to gauge the types of questions and the types of computer skills that they want to have within the test. So the pilot part is not high stakes. There will be very little like reporting done on these tests. So I've tried to encourage our teachers and our students not to get too worked up about these checkpoint tests. When we get to the spring, there is a high stakes test that happens. That's the IREAD test. In second grade, kids get their first chance to pass the IREAD test. It is really focused on K1-2 skills. I'll see if I've got, there's another link to the ILEARN practice site. It's pretty helpful. I want to see if I can get to IREAD. Here we go. It is a third grade test since 2012. The last couple of years, they've pulled it back to second grade as well. It assesses K1-2 reading skills, and it has 3 parts: word work and vocabulary, read a passage that's nonfiction, actually 3 passages that are nonfiction, and then answer questions, and then read 3 passages that are literature or fiction text. So those stories that, just made up storybook characters. And those 3 components make up the IREAD test. If kids can read fluently, they can typically then answer those questions and pass that test. That bar is not super high, just straight out honest with you. In second grade, they get a score that says pass, on track, or at risk. Pass means they never have to take that test again. At risk in the other category, on track, means they do have to take it again in third grade. And those are kids that kind of a flag for us. We need to make sure we're providing plenty of intervention for these students to help them with their foundational reading skills. In third grade, new this year, it becomes the highest stakes test that these kids are going to probably ever take. Probably more high stakes than the SATs, because SAT they can retake it. They're probably going to get into college either way. IREAD, the state has said we have to retain kids who don't pass the IREAD test in third grade. So there are some exemptions to that. Students who have IEPs or are multi-language learners, and there's some other categories of exemptions. Kids can still pass through third grade. However, they still have to keep taking the test until they pass it, or they're out of sixth grade. So this is the state's way of really making sure kids, or at least have the foundational skills for reading. A couple of those things are new. Fourth graders, if they didn't pass it last year, they're exempt. But this year's third graders now have the highest stakes that test has ever had. I'm going to actually go backwards just a minute here. I want to click on this one. This is the ILEARN practice site. I hope I click on it. Maybe not. Anyway, it takes you to a site that it has like the same 4 or 5 generic questions, but it gives you a chance to see what it looks like that the kids are going to take on that test. It gives you the format, kind of the technology side of ILEARN. So you can click on those and you can then see with your child what the site looks like. The fourth graders, they're like, we've been doing this since we were in second grade. This is super easy. Second graders and third graders early in the year, it's still new to them and they haven't been on it very many times. Second graders have never been on it. So it is kind of new and clunky to them as they try to figure out how to use some of the tools on that site. We do practice tests with every kid for every subject before they take the real test. Sorry, that clicked. That link didn't work. Here's another test. If you want to see more of the types of questions these kids are being asked, they are difficult. The text complexity and the types of questions, even the way they word questions, can sometimes be tricky for kids. A couple more links here. IREAD FAQs that the state's collected over the year. And there is an IREAD website on the state that has some more information about the updated laws and things that I talked about. A couple other helpful resources, links that'll be in there that I'll share out. A couple of things that Mr. Fuel actually added on last year. I try to host this meeting at least once a year for parents so they can have a good understanding of the tests that their kids are taking. But he added on and the importance of a good, strong teacher partnership. I know last week we had parent-teacher conferences. You guys were able to meet with your kids' teachers then, and just keep that communication going as far as what strengths your child has, what opportunities for growth, and making sure that you're giving those similar messages. You know what? This test is not a high-stakes test. Just do your best. And communicating on that. And again, I share this with teachers too to make sure they're holding up their end of the bargain. Attendance matters. Man, this is the hottest topic besides probably literacy in the state of Indiana right now. In education is attendance, because our attendance took a nosedive after COVID. Even our attendance at Needham isn't up to what I would consider par. We're like 81% of our kids show up 92% of the days. And if a kid can miss like 7 or 8 days a year and still be considered acceptable attendance, and only 82% of those kids do that. So we have our bike program this year. We brought that back, giving away a free bike at the end of each semester for kids who have good attendance. That means they miss 3 or fewer days. And then we're going to do a donut party at the end of each 9 weeks for kids who had perfect attendance during the 9 weeks. But this young man said the best ability is availability and just being at school. And I think it's most important for kids to be at school, especially in kindergarten, first, second grade, because school happens so fast. They are learning new skills every day. They're just adding to this foundation. By the time you're in third or fourth grade, usually the skills are so complex, they've got to work on them over the course and repeat 3 or 4 or 5 days. Think of like long division. Or like division with the different part whole models. But if kids have that habitual attendance issue, a couple of facts here. If a kid just misses 2 days a month, they miss 20 days in a school year. They miss 30 hours in any particular instruction. And that's over a year of school by the time they graduate high school. They would have just missed a whole year added together in that time. And then obviously you double that for kids who miss 4 days a month. They miss 40 days in a year out of 180. So attendance matters. A few more resources. And your kids will know these really well, as far as IXL, Alex, Book Taco, great places. IXL does math and reading. Alex does just math. Book Taco just does just math, or just books and reading. Community resources, library is a great resource. Boys and Girls Club, if your kids go there, they do some tutoring groups. 4-H Girls Inc., they also have some good opportunities. And one not on here, but I'm going to mention, which is Sylvan Learning. We've got a great partnership with them. It just came out today. If a kid meets a certain criteria on their ILEARN score, that means like they're below the threshold, parents are getting an email from the state of Indiana that gives a free tutoring stipend, where then you can connect with Greg Moore over at Sylvan and your kid gets free tutoring, or state-funded tutoring, to help them improve their ILEARN scores. So I got the email today from Greg that was released from the state. So depending on how children are doing on this ILEARN test, you may get an email that says, hey, your child gets this resource of Sylvan Learning, which would be a great opportunity if a child is that low or that far behind on the grade level standards. And I think that's going to get close to wrapping it up. A few more just articles and things that Josh put together for us, Mr. Field put together for us. He's headlined them to make it easy to identify if there's anything you want to read a little bit more about. There's his research. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Labadas or Mr. Lunsford, anything that you would like to ask about or would like some more clarification on?
No, I don't think so. Mainly just having those links for those kind of practice tests was the main thing that I was wanting to kind of get from it all to do some practicing.
Yep, and I tried to not hide those. I've tried to highlight those and name those so they're easy to find and they'll kind of tell you where you're going.
Awesome, thanks.
Sure thing.
Do you know if the middle school is participating in this?
I don't think they are. That's a good question. I don't think the middle school is. I think it is just the elementaries that are doing the ILEARN checkpoints. They will definitely participate in the summative test, which is the one that opens up April 14th. The whole state has to do that. So that's a good question. I'll try to get that answer. I'll put that when I share this out in a parent square. I'll share it out tomorrow, Friday at 5. I will put that answer in there.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Any other questions or comments? Was this helpful?
Thanks for putting it together, Dylan.
Sure thing. Happy to help. Hopefully we'll get a few more attendees. I'll probably do this again in the spring before we do IREAD and before we do ILEARN. IREAD, I didn't talk about the timeline of that. We will do that in early March. So the IREAD test is early March for both second and third grade. And I do have an answer, Josh. Mrs. Holman said, no, they are not doing the ILEARN checkpoints. So,
good to know.
Got that. Thanks for asking. All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time tonight and joining us. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out, shoot me an email or give me a call.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Thanks. You too.